Namaskar, this is Abhijit Srivastav, and you are at KLF Bhav Samwad. And today we are going to discuss the book Ganga to Mississippi. Take a look. This is the book written by Moon Khanji and his son Shaan Khan. So this is an incredible book about an incredible journey of a person who was not that extraordinary, right? Who made it big in his life, but it he had to face lots of struggle, right? In that order. The book is about desolation, but it's also about hope. It's about numerous, multiple defeats, but it's also about numerous triumphs, right? This book is about love, faith, magic, right? So this book is, in short, if I can say, this book is about a man's tireless pursuit of happiness, right? So here we are. Before we start discussing the book, Ganga to Mississippi, as I said, written by Moon Khan and Shan Khan, is one of the best memoirs you can read in the of any person, right, who does not have a pedigree behind him, right? So here we are going to discuss this book, and to discuss the book we have a very august panel with us, right? We have both the authors of the book with us. Then we have Sri Santosh Singh ji, the assistant editor of the Indian Express, and he's also senior journalist, and most importantly he has also written the forward to this book. We have Mr. Bibhesh Singh. I guess he has not joined us so far, but he will also be joining us in a few moments, I guess, right? So this is going to be a very interesting discussion. But before we start, uh, I would like you to take a look at this book, and
Should
please,
we should we do
I
the
would request
formal
everyone.
formal formal
I
launch?
would request
Moon
everyone
bhai,
to
do you
please,
have the
yeah,
copy?
yeah. So this is also
Yes.
going to be a formal launch of this book at KLF. Yeah. So
Yes.
please. So, sir, first of all, welcome to you, both of you authors. I welcome you all. And Santosh, sir, I welcome you as well. So, my first question to you, sir, Mr. Moon Khanji, my first question to you. Would you please describe this journey, Ganga to Mississippi, briefly for us? I mean, how the place you started from, right? That is Muzaffarpur in Bihar, right? A very small town in North Bihar, and now you are in Chicago, right? One of the most developed places in the world and in the United States. So, how you describe this journey? Would you please take us through this journey briefly, sir?
Good evening,
Yeah.
good morning,
Okay.
salam, namaste,
Must.
sat shri akal. First of all, I would like to salute KLF for organizing or hosting this program. In my wildest dream, I never thought of myself in incarnating into an author avatar and then finding myself on a literary platform in India. This is a dream come true. And this is again, as you mentioned, that my entire journey is from ordinary to extraordinary. And in this endeavor, particularly, I'm talking about my presence or audience with all of you. There are two persons who have been instrumental in bringing this book in front of all of you. One is my smiling and tireless friend whom I have never met, only through Facebook, and he is Shri Santosh Singh.
Singh ji. Right.
I tell you, I always believed in my life that you don't have to look for angels or gods everywhere.
Right.
You just find God's presence in ordinary people. there is a share. It says, "तुम भी तुम भी फरिश्तों की बात ले बैठे, तुम भी फरिश्तों की बात ले बैठे, हम तो आदमी के लिए तरसते हैं."
क्या बात.
And I found an Admi, a human being, in Mr. Santosh Kumar. So whatever you see today in terms of book or in terms of our presence is because of his encouragement. To be honest with you, and this will go, this particular sequence or context you will see in my whole life, that I found somebody I did not find, I did not discover, but somehow, sometimes people like Santosh Singh just somehow they just came out in my life and they tried to encourage me. Uh, when you go back, and we will talk about all those things. Also, in this journey, I found another great person. His name is Mr. Atul Thakur, and I did not know him, but definitely it was the camaraderie of Mr. Santosh Singh who recommended a very competent person to be the literary consultant of this book, and now the book is in front of you. While giving a big preface here, I want to just take you back to your question. And could you repeat that question first? So I want to be.
I just asked you, sir, to take us
Journey,
briefly through
journey.
this journey, this Ganga to Mississippi journey. This was an incredible journey. If I may use this word incredible, this was truly an incredible journey, because the place where from where you started and the place where you reached, right? It took lots of time, lots of patience, and lots of audacity to even think of that dream, right? So if you have been today, if you have been able to achieve that dream and you have made it for yourself, no, a name and identity for yourself, and your son is there sitting beside you, and it's what could be, I mean, greater than this, that your son happens to be the co-author of this book, right? So this journey must be very, very, very interesting and very incredible, right? So I just want you to, for our audience, I want to take us through this journey in short.
I find this kind of journey everybody goes through. It is
Right.
not extraordinary journey. It just looks like that I'm able uh, to share with you, or I'm able to articulate my journey in a more poetic way. And in Urdu, it will say, or Hindi, ये महकते हुए जख्म हैं. These
True.
wounds are full of odors, and at the same time it is so painful. Still I'm carrying with myself, but the most important thing, I don't have any bitterness. And I thought this was a vardhan of God to me to succeed. That's the most important point I can carry on. From day one, you can see that I was born in a family which didn't have anything, like nothing, not a house, uh, not a social life. It was, I don't want to go into all the details, which is in the book. And my parents, to be honest with you, only my mom and my dad. Mom is watching right now. I don't know if she's watching or not, but I'm assuming that she's there. And I would like to say, Ammi, Assalamu alaikum. Uh, my father is not here, and I also say Assalamu alaikum to him. And they did not think
सर एक
I
हम
will
आइडिया के
survive
लिए काम कर रहे
even
हैं,
a
एक नया
week
आइडिया
or
लेके
a
आए हैं,
2 or maybe a year.
और वो
And
आइडिया
once
है
I
कि
grew up, I was so
हम
um,
ड्राइड वेजिटेबल पाउडर
fragile that I believe my
और
father thought
स्पाइसेस
I
का
would be
एक
of
हम
no
आटा
value
मसाला तैयार किए
because I
हैं।
was very, very tiny and
इसका
very
नाम ही हमने
fragile,
आटा मसाला
very
रखा है,
weak.
जिससे रोटी का
But
जो
that's
टिश्यू
what the
उसका
message
टेस्ट
is,
2 महीने में
that
हो
no
जाएगा।
matter who you are, how you were born,
तो
what kind of
सर
condition you
इस
were
प्रोजेक्ट के लिए आज
put
मैं
into,
अहमदाबाद निकल रहा हूँ
it is
मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के
your
लिए।
duty how to salvage yourself and then
जी
succeed
तो
step by step. It's not a
सर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हम
winning
थर्ड पार्टी
a
करा रहे हैं।
multi-million dollar um,
जी
lottery. Success is not like that. Success is
Exactly.
step forward, and sometimes you will move 20 steps, and sometimes you have to go back 10 steps back, and then again show your
Basically, sir,
resilience.
न्यूट्रिशनल
That's the
लेवल
journey in brief.
वो सर अभी तो नहीं करा है
Okay,
अभी हम सोच रहे
sir,
हैं कि शुरू
like you have also mentioned it in your book,
स्टूडेंट
uh,
था वो इसका
Muzaffarpur
एस्टिमेटेड वैल्यू तो ये
was
है
your
कि
Janma
अभी
Bhumi,
2-3 महीने
right?
टू
And
थ्री
where you
महीनों
are
का
right
टाइम
now,
होगा क्या
Chicago
है
is your Karma Bhumi. And there is huge cultural difference. There is no similarity as such between the two places, right? So when you moved out of that place and when you reached the United States, Chicago in particular, there must be some culture shock out there, right? So how you cope with that? Because this is very relevant question, because a lot of people who think of going abroad, and particularly well to the western countries, right, they must be going through this kind of this sort of dilemma. So how you cope with that situation, cope with that cultural adjustment or cultural shock?
First of all, let me add this particular fact. I was born in Darbhanga. So people who are in Darbhanga, they will be very angry that I am hiding my identity. So I must give them full credit. I went to high school up to high school in Darbhanga. I was raised at my Nana's place, late Wajid Hussain Saab. I will never forget his. He was my first role model in my life, who showed me how you can be happy despite having nothing to you. That was the message, and that was the perception I found from him. So I belong to Darbhanga as well as Muzaffarpur both. And the second part which you are talking about, that how did you adjust? You see, adjustment is a kind of transferable learning. If you are ready to change, if you are ready to dilate, if you are ready to gel, if you are willing to adapt, things will always automatically come to you. But you are stiff, inflexible, rigid, adamant, arrogant, you will have hard time adjusting. So when I was in India, in my childhood, I had friends, Mathil Brahmins and Teli and Suri and Yadav and Gupta, and in Muslim friends, all those people were there, and I worked with them, and I knew at that time how can you get happiness by interacting with all these people who come from different background. I know a lot of my friends, they spoke in Mathili, basically in the class also. I only remember I had a neighbor, very great neighbor. He was basically my nana, one of nanas, and he was a Haji from Madhubani. And I was going to his house, and his wife will ask. One thing I remember from like I was 5 6 years old, and the first thing she would ask, "Ki khelo ho?" The prem and the affection, the way she was talking, and she was always talking in Mathili. I did not know how to talk, to be honest with you, but the message was completely getting across, and that's the diversity which I saw. When I grew up, I went to Sitamarhi, I went to Patna, I went to Bombay, a cosmopolitan town of India, the real cosmopolitan town. And to be honest with you, I met people all walks of life from India. And then I was in Saudi Arabia, where I saw a very different life, a perception, and there I had to adjust with all those people. Finally, I came to the United States, and then I realized that you know what, Atma always remains constant. Body changes, Atma doesn't change. And if you in your Atma, you love people, you love culture, you love religion. Religion does not mean you love only your religion. If you are a really religious person, you have to love all other religions. Just like you can marry a woman and she will be your wife, it does not mean all the other women were of bad characters. Exactly, that's how I found, and that is true with culture and religion and environment. Once I straighten out that uh, feature in my thinking, then I said, you know what? I don't have to worry about. I'm just like fish in the water. I must know how to swim.
Santosh sir, my next question is to you, and you have written the foreword to this book, right? So you must have gone through the story first, right? What did you find so unique or so special to this character, or to this memoir, or to this book? Because as I can see, this story is really unique in a way that a person, right, who doesn't know, right, at the beginning, he doesn't know how to move ahead in life, because he's so depressed because of the circumstances, because all the odds he has been facing, right? And then suddenly he come across a person, he meets a person who gives him a kind of purpose to his life, and then the trajectory of his life changes altogether. So how you see this whole story?
Very interesting question. I will take the cue from Shaan's words. I also mentioned that in the forward as well. He talked about how a rose can grow from crevice of a concrete. We all are like that. Several of us do not see that gap, that crevice in the concrete. We have to find out that concrete. Moon Khan had seen that concrete. He had the option of taking to gun, as he had written in the book. But his teacher Krityanand Singh told, "Do you have to choose between a gun and a pen?" And of course, he preferred the latter. Any simple person who got a job of a stenographer or clerk in Sitamarhi, in Bihar, could have settled there jolly well. He could have been happy. But he was with constant fight with himself. The character is constant fight with himself, not just with his never. That that mighty, doughty, and whatever adjectives you may give him, all the mostly the bad ones. But he went there and he started looking for opportunities. When one day he found that his name was on the list of this register, it was struck off because of his name, because of his religion, to be very precise. And he did took offense to that, but didn't express it in those many words. He struggled with himself. He found a way to come out of it, and he wrote his BPSC exam. Because of the policy change, he could not get it. Yet he could not stop. He could have still settled down in Bihar, but he went to Mumbai. Then the character thought, ki, okay, even this is not good enough. I'm not making great things here. Let us move. And the passport story is very interesting. I think it should be left to the readers to find out the passport story. Then how he lands up there and he makes a fortune. It's a very interesting tale. I just mentioned his name to my son, Saswat, is 21. Uh, he just googled his name because he is some kind of politician there, and there is before this, even before this book, there is a lot about him in the Google. Okay. So he didn't stop, and you see the journey. Lalu Prasad goes there and he describes, his tale about his father. And I cannot forget that scene of the Rajbala Burma ordering cops to visit his home. And they go there and his father thinks, oh my god, police again came, that it must be the handiwork of perpetrator. Then he was in for socks. Then the policeman said to him, no, your son is in Chicago. He used his connection and sent us here. So you would not be facing any problem from your perpetrator any longer. And right in the face of all those neighbors, that man was given a stern message, ki no messing up. Now, it's not just the story and the climax of the story, as I mentioned, that I told this to Moon Bhai several times. That fellow had opened a single window to tease him and his entire family, to just to keep a watch on him. It was another kind of spyware was there. And now the see the Chicago Asiana opening some 200 windows, some opening up to the sky, sun right into the face of that now the aged man. And again, it's an act of magnanimous heart. Then he went there and he said thank you to that person. Ki, thank you so much. Had you been not there, I would not have been there where I am. So it's a as you rightly said, it's an extraordinary journey of an ordinary person. Everybody has a moon khan in himself or herself. You have to find that out. So he found that out. So many people leave India every day, every year. You can check the records. But see, geographically, of course, Ganga cannot reach Mississippi, but going there, making an impact. And I think you should bring Shaan here. Shaan will tell the rest of the story. He's a co-author. Bring him here. I can come as an expert commentator in between. Yes, Abhijit.
So, Shaan, my next question is to you, and I can see you here, a happy man who has written this book at a very young age. But my question to you is very specific. You have never been to India, if I'm not wrong, right? I've never been to India. So, what kind of impression do you have of this country, the country of your ancestors, the country that your father left around 30 years ago in search of a better fortune, a better future, better career, right? So, what kind of impression do you have of this country?
That's a very good question, Abhijit.
Yeah.
I did visit India when I was very, very young. I was too young to get any souvenirs, and so I don't remember much from the visit. I grew up connected to India in a sense. My father has been very involved. Chicago has a very diverse and vibrant South Asian community. I grew up speaking Urdu. I grew up eating biryani and all the wonderful dishes, watching Bollywood movies. But naturally, I think I had as much exposure as one could have growing up in the United States. I also think that, to your question, India is very diverse. So if we ask this question to Indians, we might get a few dozen different answers. From my perspective, if we call America the land of opportunity, we have to consider India the land of ambition. It's a land of desire. It's a land of want. In fact, there's so much desire, there's so much want that, for better or for worse, sometimes maybe India is challenged to nurture and to support that want and that desire. And we see it spill over all around the world, including in the United States. Right? Look at Mr. Sundar Pichai, one of the biggest. He's running at least one of the largest companies on the planet. But without a doubt, he's an Indian man with Indian sentiments, Indian education, and so largely I would call it a land of ambition. And certainly, my father's journey is an example of that spilling over. Beyond that, I think I would say that to some degree, India is kind of like a variety pack. One thing I've learned about Indian food is that you don't do a pinch of salt, pinch of haldi, pinch of masala. It doesn't exist. You put the whole thing in there, right? You could everything you got, all the kitchen sink, all the masala, especially red chili powder. I know that's the one for me, right? So you throw everything in there. That's what India is. If you want love, you've got the Taj Mahal. It's there. If you want hustle and bustle and technology and high rises, don't go to Manhattan. They call Manhattan the city that never sleeps. Go to Mumbai. You won't sleep for a month, right? You've got everything that you want in India. You've got opulence. You've got excess. But look, to be realistic, you've got struggle. You've got adversity. You've got challenges. That's not unique to India. That exists in America. That exists all around the world. It's also a part of the Indian journey. And certainly it's a part of my father's journey. And you open this discussion with a really wonderful question, which is, what is the message of this book, or how do you describe this book? Folks, this is a rags to riches story. This is a story of an ordinary man doing extraordinary things, right? And it's a testament to the fact that you must always have a fighting spirit. And as Santoshji very eloquently mentioned, that fighting spirit is in all of us. And I think that fighting spirit, if you were to ask me to summarize India, I would summarize it with that fighting spirit to never give up. I think that exists in India to a really, really large degree.
My next question is, you were growing up in the US in almost the same period when 9/11 took place, right? And it was certainly one of the most devastating and one of the most deciding moments in the world history, in the modern history, if we talk about. What was your experience? Because world was not anymore the same when what it used to be, prior to 9/11. So how, what was your experience of that period? Because you must be growing up, during that time. Did you find it a little difficult, or did you face some kind of discrimination, or some kind of, some kind of challenges in that United States?
Yeah, I remember that time period very well. Um, what I would say, I attended public school in the United States for most of my education. And what I can tell you is that from my colleagues, at times I'm as American as apple pie, and at times I'm as Indian as the Taj Mahal. And sometimes I'm very much in between. And so naturally, as I was very, very young, I don't have the strongest recollection of just what was going on at that time. But what I can tell you is that there's a growing population in this country of American born Indians. We have Indian faces, we have Indian names. To some degree, we might even have Indian accents, but we've never been to India. And I mean, you mentioned a world event like that. There are going to be, the world is very dynamic. And I think that this population of American born Indians is going to play a major role in the world economy, in the world space. And the relationship that those of us here have with India is going to be very important, despite the fact that we might be one or two generations removed from actually living in India. So to that end, I was always treated like I said, as American as apple pie. And especially being with my father, who's very active and very much interested in getting to know people and understanding people, I think that moment was an opportunity to understand one another and sometimes have difficult conversations. It's not easy to talk about these things, especially with young people. But I think the community in Chicago, I think the diversity in Chicago grew from that moment, despite how challenging it was. And I'm grateful for at least having somebody like my father to guide me through those kinds of times.
My next question to you, Moon Khanji. My next question is to you, and and this is more factual in nature. I have this data with me that is as of 2019, about 2.7 million Indian immigrants resided in the United States. 2.7 million, right? And this is the case about every Western country. And if I may use this word, Indians are ubiquitous. You may find them all across the world, right? So do you see it as a very serious case of brain drain? We are in India, we are not able to preserve, or we're not able to conserve the talent that we have, and consequently they move out of the country, and they contribute to the making of other countries, right, in the growth of other countries. So how do you see this? Because you have also been through this situation. So I would like you to elaborate on this.
Well, it has several layers of perception. Uh, at the outset, if I call it brain drain, that will be like kind of a pejorative uh, connotation. Brain drain or brain in the drain. So right now, brain drain is in one way better than the brain in drain. So all those people are getting nourished, going somewhere else, getting satisfaction, getting recognized, which is much better than perishing in a bad condition. So we have to think about from that perspective. The second thing is that, as Thomas Friedman said, the earth is flat. Now the earth is not limited to बाउंड्रीज. अब सरहदें बांध नहीं सकती हैं लोगों को. अब राष्ट्रवाद लोगों को लोगों की तरक्की का रास्ता नहीं हो सकता है. अब जमाना है सबसे मिल के रखने का और दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है उससे सीखने का. So this is a new world, and a new world, as Indians are ubiquitous, the same way Chinese products are ubiquitous everywhere. So that's what you have to live with that. Secondly, in America, we should also know that America is a land where everybody is accepted, adopted, affectionately, affectionately hugged. So here in the United States, only Indians are not rising. This is a misperception in India, and we love our people. So naturally, we will always see the name of Sundar Pichai and all those people. But when you come here and you will see, there are people from all. They are Chinese. They are as successful as Indians, Koreans, Pakistanis, Arabs, Greeks, like all the people from all over the world. New immigrants, basically, new immigrants are running and revving up the engine of the United States. This is a this is a phenomenon which we have to accept and also acknowledge, and also in India we have to adopt. In the United States, as I told you, you asked Shaan a question about 9/11. Uh, that's a that question show talks about that incident. Basically, updates you or enlightens you about the resilience of the U.S. society and U.S. Um, culture. He was very little. He was 5 years old or something like that at the time. I was a grown-up person, and to be honest with you, personally, again, I am a very optimistic person. As my very good friend Abhijit, Santosh Bhai said that something happened against me in India, and I did not make a big deal out of it. My name was removed from a register, and with a pejorative word. There were my friends who would say, "Oh, this is rampant, and this is bad, and this happens." I never felt like that. I said, "Okay, this might be a mistake of one person. How can I use that one person to malign the entire population? That will be completely wrong." The same way here, when this happened 9/11. To be honest with you, I did not feel any any kind of discrimination. Again, that's me. A lot of friends of my ethnicity, they were very very under stress. I remember one this is the incident, and you see how I cope with this kind of situation. 9/11 happened. Next day, I saw everybody was having a small or big or large American flag in front of their doors or here and there. And then I said, you know what? Everybody is having a flag. And to be honest with you, I'm a very nationalist person. When I was in India, I was as Indian, like just mention, you know, anybody so-called Rashtrawadi who is right now. People used to call me Bharti. That was my, like, they were attacking me. Is Bharti. And I was said, yes, I was born in Bharat and I love Bharat. Now I'm in the United States. I love the United States, society, government, whatever is there. Not the government, naturally, you can disagree with them, but the system. So I tell you, this will be very interesting. I went to a place to buy, not to a place, I went to several stores to buy US flag. It was out of market. No, it was everywhere we are sold. Then somebody told me that there is a place, one guy, he is selling a small shop and he's selling there. I went there. There were maybe like 100 people in line to buy US flags. And huge line, huge queue. And I was in that line. Naturally, my face is as Indian as you or anybody. Here Shaan is sitting here. It does look like my son, but I'm proud of that. Whatever God gave me, that's it is. So I was in line, and then everybody started looking at me. Everybody, like they were so. But you see, nobody said anything. Nobody taunted. Nobody. There was no sarcasm. Just a like a skewed, what's called eye gesture. That's it. And then I reached to the place. The guy who was selling. Finally, my time came. And then I asked him, he had like so many uh, types of flags. So I said, okay, how much is the price for that one? Just like we talk Indian, that one. And he said, which one? I said, the largest one. And he looked at me. I said, you are talking about this? He got irritated. I said, yeah. And that was the most expensive and the biggest flag with pole and everything. I said, yeah, I would like to buy that. And to be honest with you, I bought it. And once I took out from there, all those people who were in line, they were looking at me. And this guy, he came and we were buying like 5 inches or 1 foot or 2 foot. This guy is buying like 10 foot to pole. And the biggest flag. That's how I make a statement. And that's how I try to put myself in context. So then people automatically will say, oh my gosh, this guy, how can I criticize this guy? You see, one thing I take you to this book. This book is, it has a lot of things which you will be discussing. One thing which is very close to my heart is the front cover. The front cover, it is a Mithila painting, and that has been done. You can see the name of the artist, Chitra Singh, and I don't see you in the screen. I don't know if I'm there or not. But anyway, that's a Mithila painting. So I thought, you know what? I was born in Bihar. I was born in, yes, in Darbhanga. So why shouldn't we have a painting of a Mithila painting? That shows that how far I can go to attach myself with my root, and I am proud of that.
So as Moon Khanji mentioned, the cover, the front cover of this book has been designed by Chitra Singh ji. And Chitra Singh ji is an eminent artist, and she is into Madhubani paintings, Mithila paintings, and as you can see, this looks amazing. So my next question to you, Shan, as your father said, it's not about Indians only, right? Even Chinese are growing. Even other people from other countries are also making it big in the United States. How do you see these stories? Because in India, especially, we are so proud of this. We are so proud of these stories like Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella, or recently, uh, an Indian became the CEO of Twitter. We know about Ajay Banga. We now know about Indira Nui, right? So there are lots of people, right? We have Kamala Harris as the Vice President of the United States, right? So we are very proud of this fact that yes, we Indians are making it really big on the global scale, on the global map. How do you perceive these stories, right? Because as your father said, that it's not about Indians only. People from other countries, other communities are also making it equally big in the country, because that society somehow or somewhere promotes meritocracy. So how you do perceive this kind of narrative? Yeah.
That's a very good question. It's a very nuanced question because,
Right.
like my father said, there are layers to it. I'm reminded of a quote from a gentleman by the name of Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a neurologist, psychiatrist. Some might say he was a philosopher. Notably, he was a Holocaust survivor. And he said, when we are unable to change our situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And to me, that's what this book is about. I spoke on what I feel is part of the spirit of India, the fighting spirit of India. I feel that that's about. I feel like it's about the importance of never giving up on yourself, always pushing the envelope. When I think about Ganga to Mississippi, to me, it's the same thing as going from Mississippi to Mars. It's that kind of journey. If you imagine a person born in a home made of clay with no electricity, running water when it rains, that's it, okay? And now you're in the house that he built. I mean, this is a remarkable journey, and that to me is what the journey is about. That's the fighting spirit of India, and I think that's a really productive thing. And for me, one of the reasons why I was very passionate to be involved in this project is because I also feel that part of the Indian spirit, a huge part of it, places a very strong emphasis on education as a value. And currently, it's no mistake, I'm wearing the uniform, I've got the glasses on, I'm a medical student. If I can say humbly, being in medical school, it's one of the more challenging pursuits of higher education, not just in the United States. I know how hard Indian medical students work, especially in today's health climate. I think we all know how hard our physicians work. It's very challenging. And part of the reason, Santoshji, you mentioned your son. Part of the reason why I wanted to be a part of this project is to speak to a younger audience and try to convince young people who are logging into their social media, they're turning on the TV, they're watching a certain lifestyle, they're thinking that there's a certain image of success. I want to show them that there's a value to integrity, there's a value to humility, there's a value to listening to your parents, there's a value to education. We're sitting in a tangible benefit of that value. And I've felt that value if I can be their bigger brother. I've felt that value in my own life, pursuing education, how it can change your outlook, how it can change the destiny of your family. That's what Ganga to Mississippi means to me. When I'm studying for an exam, I don't feel like it's out of my reach because I know what's possible. And I have now, very thankful to the publishers, very, very thankful for everybody on this project. Now I have a book that is tangible proof of what's possible. And I think for readers who are interested in getting this book, once they pick it up, it's not a book that you read. It's a book that reads you. They won't be able to put it down. And the gems that they're going to take out of this book and the value they're going to add to their lives and their journeys through this book, I think that's a really exciting possibility. And again, I think that just speaks to the ambition of India and the intent on using education as a tool to expand future generations, that I think many Indians have that value.
So my next question is to both of you. We all know how the ties, how the equations between the United States and India have evolved over the period, right? Over the past 70, 75 years. At the governmental level, at the leadership level, we all know how it has, taken shape. We know it is very, the United States strategic calculations in US's strategic calculation, India holds a very significant space, right? And especially when we see it in the context of rising China and all these geopolitical situations. But my question is this: how has India been able to make it to the psyche or make it to the social discourse in the United States? Have we become the part of social discourse in the country, and how people of the United States in general think about India? Apart from this, all these things, all these geopolitical things, what are the views or what are the opinions or what are the what kind of space do we have in the social discourse of the country?
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Very sensitive question, but I will take it. In 21st century, governments are not going to make all the decisions of the world. They are on the margin. Definitely, we are sitting in our country, like in India and here and there. We give a lot of importance to governments. But now you see how it is changing, it is shifting. Government, because of the social media, over presence of social media, predominance of social media, people to people exchange is creating a lot of impressions. So Indian government is not part of American psyche. I tell you very bluntly,
Okay.
and not even recently. It has gone back. It used to be, but now it is not going there. Sorry to say that, but this is a reality. But at the same time, the impact of Indians as a whole worldwide has really attracted the psyche of the world, and at least in the United States. I tell you, if you walk somewhere in the street, and if somebody, a person who were born here, who is not of our origin, will look at you, and he or she will think that either you are a doctor, you are an engineer, you are an IT specialist, or you are a huge industrial business person. This is the psyche I'm talking about, and that is a positive thing. That is has really penetrated into the minds of people here. Secondly, America is a very evolving society, very like constantly, very dynamic. And here, human rights, freedom of expression, all these things have a real meaning. So when people come here, you see Sundar Pichai and all those things, when they come here, they become very liberal. they become very open hearted. And that's how and why they succeed here. And I gave you my question in a very like semantic way, and you can ask more, but this much will give you the idea what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Shaan, what about you? How you think these things shaping up in your country?
Sure, sure. First of all, I think a lot of what my father said has a lot of merit, and you know, to a large degree, Indian Americans are considered a model minority, and some people, everybody has their own perspective on that. But I think in general, there's a positive tilt to Indians either who come to America or, like me, are born in America but have Indian roots. I think in the workplace, we're viewed as professional, we're viewed as dependable. I can tell you, certainly in the medical space, it's basically a stereotype that if you're an Indian in America, that you're going to go into medicine. Nowadays, Indians who are born in America, they give you, the doctor takes a stethoscope out and he just puts it on you when you're born. And so that's a perspective of Indians in America. There's almost like a stereotype of success. I think it's a positive thing, to be frank. I think it's something to live into and live up to. For I think that there's a lot of opportunity, and at the same time, I think that in the coming decades, Indians in America will play a big role across industries. We already see people leading tech. We see people leading medicine. We see people in entertainment. I think that's gonna be advanced and bolstered in the future.
Moon Khan sir, my question here, the subsequent question is, you have talked about your identity crisis in the book. The kind of identity crisis that you were going through. You are an American, you are an Indian, you are a Muslim, you are an Asian, right? So it was quite a tricky situation for you. It must have been quite a tricky situation. Would you please describe it for our audience, how it was like when you had to actually describe yourself, or when you had to actually define your identity, right? How you actually did it, and how you cope with that very not so easy phase of your life when you moved out of this country and you reached there, and the situation was not that familiar, obviously, right? So how you cope with that situation and that identity crisis in particular.
Again, this is a contextual question, and my answer will be like kind of you can say very not typical. It is my personal way of accepting my identity. I believe that identity is not one dimensional. You can have several identities and you can fit with that, you can enjoy that. If you are a person, you are also a father, you are a brother, you are a husband, and vice versa, for a male and female role. That's an identity. At the same time, when we are in India, I was in India, I was a Bihari, proud Bihari. But at the same time, I was like Hindi speaking, Urdu speaking. There was a kind of culture shift that this is South India and this is North India. So identities are always there. The second thing, sometimes people ask, whom do you like most? What identity do you like most? And the answer to that question is, so is somebody asking you, do you like your eyes better or do you like your face better? Do you like your kidney better or do you like your heart better? That is not a good question. You want a holistic picture, who you are. And that's where once I started thinking about that, to be honest with you, I never felt uncomfortable anywhere. I am good with my identity, just like I am sitting with you with my glasses on, with my jacket on, with shirts, everything. That's a package. And every time you have to carry that package everywhere. Once you are good at it, then you don't have to worry about that what identity should fit. I wrote, in fact, an article that was published in the Chicago Tribune like 10 years ago I included that article in this book, which is very germane to today's situation. And that's how and I tell you, I never felt that I was having any kind of identity crisis. I never felt like that. I'm very comfortable with my multi identity, multi-dimensional identity, and that's how it should be.
Shaan, you have been a very integral part of this journey called Ganga to Mississippi, right? You have seen the things, evolving. You have seen how your father has, uh, you know, how your father has evolved as a person over the period of over the past 30-35 years, right? How do you describe this journey in particular? Because I want your perspective, because you must have slightly different perspective from your father's, right? So what is your what is your view, what is your opinion about this whole narrative shaping up? Because as I said in the beginning itself, this was certainly not a very easy kind of journey, right? This was incredible, and we must accept that, right? And you became the part of this journey when your father shifted to the United States, right? So you have not seen that phase of his life, right, when he was actually suffering lots of ordeal, lots of traumatic things in his life, right? So when he went there and when he started building his life right from the scratches, right, how do you see this?
That's a really great question. I feel that to a degree, it goes back to what I talked about, which is the fighting spirit and never giving up on yourself. When I read, obviously, I've seen a big part of my father's journey in the United States, but when I read about his journey as a young man, basically younger than me, when he was in India, going through the things he went through, it convinces me of what's possible. It convinces me of the value of never giving up. I wanted to touch upon something that we haven't talked about just yet, because I think a big part of my father's journey, in every place that he's been in the world, is his contribution as a writer. And this book, in a large way, it's a literary achievement. When you read this book, it reads kind of like a script to a movie, and the scenes are, every chapter is a different scene. This book is filled with quotes from notable authors. It's filled with quotes from various holy books. It's filled with quotes from hip hop artists. It's not just a narration of what happened from point A to point B. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. It takes you along a path that is paved in gold, like a yellow brick road. And that's one of the beauties of this book. So when you pick up this book, you're also appreciating literary creativity. And I wanted to touch upon this point. I know it's not your question. I'll get to your question, but I want, it's really important, because I understand organizations like the Kalinga Literary Festival are immeasurably important. It's so important to promote journalism and writing and creative writing, especially with the way communication is today. But like I said, to my father's journey, I think it just speaks to the importance of never giving up. I think it speaks to the importance of never accepting no for an answer. I know that there are a lot of people in India of all ages, of all backgrounds, who are in all kinds of circumstances. And this book speaks to that spirit of never giving up. And that's what this book means to me. That's what Ganga to Mississippi means. It seems we may have lost our our moderator, but Santoshji, you've been at the cusp
Uh,
for some time.
yeah, of course.
What is your perspective on some of the things that have been shared? What are your thoughts on what we've been talking about? And I guess what does Ganga to Mississippi? We can start. What does it mean to you?
As I mentioned earlier, uh, as you rightly mentioned towards the end of your uh, answer to the last question, that's it's also a lesson in creative writing, as you said, about how journalism should be pursued. And you used a lot of literary references, not just from India, but from the all around the world. And I did mention that part in the
Mhm.
forward. I found it very interesting. So it's very cohesive. If we talk in terms of a world citizen, how the world citizen should be like, that book reflects that spirit. So there is nothing in the name or the surname. It's, after all, it is not our choice. Birth is just an accident. So India of 70s, Moon Bhai left out India of today, 2022. I think it's a bit different. Now we see the binary pronounced. It was not that. Okay, there had been caste issues, there had been issues of land mafia, particularly in North Bihar, more so in Muzaffarpur. Even after in 80s and 90s it happened. We saw that journey. What is so striking about that journey is resilience. Resilience of the person. Resilience is the, I think, the biggest takeaway of the book for me. Often we give up. There are some problems and we give up. And see, last evening I was watching a program, and I don't remember that program. The he was talking about if you set just a target for yourself and you achieve that target, what would you do after achieving that? Would you get complacent? No, you will fix the next target for yourself. So after you leave Sitamari, you reach Patna. After once you reach Patna, you reach Mumbai. Once you reach Mumbai, you go to Gulf, and then to the Chicago. And then from there he talks about the world's perspective. And I was just when you were talking, I was just looking at the cover of the book Ganga to Mississippi or the caption, and now I found it struck me कि Ganga is on my right, that is Moon Khan, and Mississippi is on my left, that is Shaan Khan. So it's geographically, I do not do not know the origin of Mississippi offhand. I can Google it and get it. But this is the Ganga which has begot Mississippi. That Mississippi is gift to this Ganga. That is the achievement of this book. I'm not just it. My brother is also works in US. Is in LA. We talk at regular intervals. Is he Indian spirit is alive. He eats Indian food. He's passionate about his country. So I'm not talking about the geography and the culture and the best of the best things of the world you are getting. And Moon Bhai also mentioned one great thing about the systemic changes, about that he hinted at the corruption and how the things are get done. Things are done in a such a beautiful process. We are not talking about after all these years. We're talking about the single window system in our country in India. But why? The US society, even for that matter, Western society, a small country like Singapore, practiced it long before. They have nothing, but they are just doing the processing things, and they have simplified the things. So one thing we have to learn from the United States or other countries, some of the Western countries, is the systemic changes we should induce in the country. We should start doing in the country which have not done yet, about the problems of the corruption. So in some, it books tells me a lot. So now I will throw another question since Abhijit is not there. uh, I read the book, no need to say that I read the book from cover to cover. Moonbhai, just for Indian readers and even for US readers, the world readers who would like to, you tell me, narrate what was the trigger point. There must have been one trigger point in life that have you have provoked, it's enough is enough. Now I am done. I am not cannot take it anymore. And why didn't you two of your brothers take it? And why you decided to being the eldest one? What was the trigger? Like,
Well, it's a very deep question. We are like, I have two brothers, Mateen Khan, Nasir Khan, and Majid Khan. And my sister is Tahira Khanam. They are watching me. I hope so. You see, I believe that sometimes nature selects you for a certain role, because I will not think in any way that I selected myself for this role. My two brothers, my Nasir Khan, he was stronger than me, I believe so. Um, I was very fragile, very weak. But at the same time, it looks like God just thought that this is the guy who can lead this family to a stage of nirvana. You know what I mean? And then gradually I was helped by so many people. I must share here that I had two teachers. First of all, just after graduating from high school, I met a person, a great reverence for him. He passed away, late Ras Bihari Ghosh. He was a Bengali person. He loved me so much that he asked me to learn Bangla. Now I can learn Bangla. I can understand Bangla about 90% because of him. And I feel myself that half Bengali, I am half Bengali. That was a great honor, that he adopted me like that. Later on, when I went to college and I wrote a entire chapter on him, his name is Dr. Kurtia Nan Singh. I hope he's watching or his sons are watching. He has two sons, Pankaj and Neeraj. And to be honest with you, the way he guided me or he counseled me, it looks like I was his third child, and still I feel that he's my godfather, and his impact is so enormous on my thinking, on my success, on my way of I, analyzing identity, and going beyond the race and religion and boundary of culture. He was a very instrumental person in shaping my mind. So sometimes what happens, I believe, it is not you who decide to accept the challenge. Sometimes challenges select you for that role, and it happens even in film industry. You talk somebody and somebody tell you, "Oh my gosh, he was selected for this position." Somebody said, "You ask this guy," and he became a star there. So exactly same thing happens with in the lives of people. And I believe once you need some help, you need a person. एक तो स्कल्प्टर चाहिए जो तराशे बुत को और उस बुत को खुदा बनाए, ऐसा होना है। तो वो लोग आते हैं जिंदगी में, और उसके लिए आपको एक विशेष वरदान मिलना चाहिए। मैं आई वॉज लाइक रियली ब्लेस्ड टू हैव पीपल ऑल माई लाइफ, लाइक आई सेड, रास बिहारी घोष जी, अल्लाह उनको जन्नत मगफरत करे। मेरे जो दोस्त हैं, मेरे जो टीचर हैं, कृत्यानंद सिंह हुए। आप आए इस बुक को लिखने में, वी डोंट नो ईच अदर, वी हैव नेवर मेट ईच अदर, बट एक फरिश्ते की तरह आप नाजिल हुए, ऐसे है। तो मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि दिस हैपेंस एंड वी हैव टू लुक फॉर opportunities. My son always say, what's the teacher thing, Shaan, you say?
Yeah, when a student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah, it's true.
Son, I just missed.
Sure, sure. Well, the quote is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And my father, he mentions it very eloquently. Sometimes it's not you who selects the challenge, it's the challenge that selects you. And we define ourselves in moments of adversity. We define ourselves not when we have everything, when the chips are down, and when we have an uphill battle to go. That's when we really define who we are. And my father's answer to all the things that were going on in India, and I want to share just a little bit of a story that is in the book, just a little piece of it, and then people can go out and get the book and read the whole story. But you mentioned, your question was, what was the trigger? What was the trigger for my father choosing to go on this journey? I can share a little bit about it, if that's okay, just a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Especially, there was a situation, among many situations, there was a situation where my father's ancestral land, the land of his birthright, was being encroached upon by a powerful party who was richer, stronger, more well-connected, financially and in society. And it felt there was nothing that could be done against that. And in fact, that land was successfully encroached upon. And there was a watershed moment for my father. I want to share this part. It strikes me very emotionally as well. There's a watershed moment. My father's on the cusp of emotion. There's tears in his eyes. He goes to a location and he's ready to pick up a gun. His hand is on it. He's ready for it. And he's ready to probably do something that would have ended his journey. and it would not have allowed my journey to start. And in that moment, his professor said, Moon, you have an option. It's the pen or the gun. It's not easy for a young man to choose there. There's a lot of factors going on there, and he chose the pen. And to this day, he still uses that pen. And that's what this book is about. There are a lot of young people who are on that cusp. I know that. There are a lot of young people who feel they have no other option, but there is another option. The option is to believe in yourself. The option is to choose your education as your weapon. It was Nelson Mandela who once said, education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. That's what this book is about. And if you want to learn more about that, I'm telling you, when you pick this book up, you won't be able to put it down. And the stories that are told in this book, the way that they're told, the quotes that are throughout the book, they'll encourage you. You'll finish reading the book and you'll be ready to go to Mars if you're in America. And if you're in India, you'll be ready to go anywhere.
Before I hand it over to Avijit, I just remember a couplet or quadruplet, whatever it is. Shaan, you would also like it, since you read a lot of Urdu as well, besides Hindi and English. I think some way summarizes the journey of Moon Khan. इस दुनिया में बेअमल को राहतें नहीं मिलती, इस दुनिया में बेअमल को राहतें नहीं मिलती, दोस्तों दुआओं से जन्नतें नहीं मिलती, दोस्तों दुआओं से जन्नतें नहीं मिलती, अपने दम पे लड़ती है अपनी जंग हर पीढ़ी, अपने दम पे लड़ती है अपनी जंग हर पीढ़ी, नाम के बुजुर्गों के कभी अजमतें नहीं मिलते.
बहुत अच्छे, बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब.
That sums up the journey. Something I again recall कि हमने बुजुर्गों से सीखा है फने सीसागिरी.
Yes.
हमने बुजुर्गों से सीखा है फने सीसागिरी, हम तो पत्थर को भी आईना बना देते हैं. So see, Abhijit, you are back. Just one question I will ask Shaan. I am very tempted. Shaan, you grew up with a person, your father, who came from Mufasil milieu, came with a lot of. You must be fed with a lot of story of nostalgia. There would have been stories of his struggle. He would have told you many times, and at times you would have interrupted him and said, "Oh, Pop, I have listened to this. Tell me something fresh." And again, on the another set of the world, you were growing with your friends from US, India, and whichever country they were in the school. So there were two sets of values. One values in the school, once inside your home, half India, half US. So what kind of values you imbibed, what you left out, on how did it help you stay grounded and be like a son of Moon Khan, which you are very proudly?
That's a really great question. And if I were to say that America and India are my parents, as you know, parents want their kids to inherit the best of them and to leave out the worst. And I feel that that's to a degree what has happened with me growing up in America. You know, there are wonderful values in America. There are wonderful values of hard work, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, never making excuses. There are terrific values. There are also really terrific Indian values of respecting your elders, being humble, respecting your teachers, valuing education, treating your guests with the ultimate level of respect. There was a funny story. My freshman class of biology at Howard University in Washington, D.C. I remember one day, unfortunately, I was a few minutes late to class. And I was always taught that if you're ever late to class, you knock on the door and you say, "Professor, can I come in?" And it was an auditorium of 120 students. And so when I knocked on the door, everybody looked back and I said, "Professor, can I come in?" And they looked at me like I was an alien. In America, you just kind of walk in and you sit down. So I think I've gotten the best of both worlds in that degree, in that regard. And it's never been a challenge because my father, he never told me what to think of India. He never told me what to think of America. He opened up the avenues. He opened up the options. He allowed me to explore. He allowed me to learn, and he allowed me to develop my own sensibilities. And I'm very grateful for that. A lot of parents raise their kids to encounter the world or to attack the world. My father raised me to understand it and change it. And so I think it's important, especially reading this book, for everybody, for everybody reading this book, it's important to never think of yourself as the nail and the world as the hammer. you must be tough because the world is tough. The world can change if you have the discipline, if you have the hard work, if you have the determination. You can change how things are, and that's what this book speaks to me, and that's what the journey, being an American-born Indian speaks to me. You mentioned the share. I'm a big fan of Urdu Shairi. I'm a big fan. I included a couple of my favorites in the book, and there's one that I think also summarizes the book before we hand it to Abhijit ji, and that is हजारों साल नरगिस अपनी बेनूरी पे रोती है हजारों साल नरगिस अपनी बेनूरी पे रोती है बड़ी मुश्किल से होता है चमन में दीदवर पैदा. And to me, I always viewed my father as that rose, and that's why I wrote a chapter on him called "The Uttar of the Rose." That refers to him, and I was always very grateful for that. So that's a very great question, Santoshji, and you also did a tremendous job with the forward. I was very thoroughly impressed and entertained with your forward as well, and that was a terrific question.
Thank you. Over to Abhijit.
So, as we move to the final phase of this discussion, I would like Musa to tell us some anecdotes from the book, and especially that one when the district magistrate visit your home and they feel scared that why she is again there, right? So, just share that anecdote with us, with our audience. So,
Also, the coconut story.
yeah,
I I like the coconut story. To be honest with you, that's my
sure, sir.
best. What do you call it? Story, because that particular incident of my property and everything, uh, I believe it has the time has uh, it's a copyright. So I don't want to expand on that. And also, it creates a nightmare time to time. So why shouldn't we go on a more literary side and let's enjoy the thing? There is a story on coconut, and that story. To be honest with you, I added uh, almost at the end of the book. Like I was finished, almost finished it, and then all of a sudden I thought, this is a very interesting story. We had a coconut. I don't want to give the entire detail over there, but this has a lot of symbolism. The guy who was next to my land, he was a pujari, Panditji. We used to call him Panditji or Babaji. And that guy somehow stole my coconut tree, and he took it out and planted in front of his house. And I was like, to be honest with you, like we were completely aghast. We were completely shocked that how can he do that? And I was going to confront at that time. And what my father said, you know what? It's already in front of his house. Now you bring that back, most likely it will die because it will not tolerate that much transportation. So at least you can see the tree from your house. Why not just see it? If it is not in your house, just be happy to be somewhere else. And he is a Babaji or Panditji. It is better there because when the coconut comes, that coconut will be more used in performing a puja, and you will not be performing a puja. So why not allow them to have that? That was a like so remarkable experience from our reaction for my father. Another thing which you didn't ask, but let me share with you with this book. This book is not only talking about me and my story and everything to all the world, but also this book brought me to the attention of my son. He really did not know in details about all these pains, and he alluded to that I generally uh, never tried to share with him my bitter past, so he can be agonized or prejudiced. And always I wanted him to evolve his own opinion and his identity. So you will see very distinct difference in my approach, in my way of expressing certain things, and he has very different, very optimistic. That's the best part is that he's more optimistic about the world than me, although I'm also there, but I'm very happy to see that. The best part was that when the book was is entire all the chapters were ready, and I asked him, Shaan, you are a good reader and good writer. I would really like that if you could read it over and tell me how do you like or something like that. Being a medical student, to be honest with you, he didn't have any time. Still, he doesn't have time. He studies like 10 hours. I don't know how much. I hardly see him sometimes, just as a sign of rainbow in my house. Otherwise, we don't talk much. So what happened? He after he read 2 days, he said, "Okay, Daddy, I might have. I'm going to take out time in 2 days or one day. I don't know. I believe it's 2 days." He read the entire book from A to Z, and then the first thing he asked me, he said, "Daddy, did you write this book?" I said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "I never knew that you have that literary talent in this of this magnitude." And secondly, he said, "I don't know, I did not know that you have been so much in pain. I did not know that." So that was a really very, like, winning an Oscar when he said that you are a writer. When you get this kind of accolade from your own family members and particularly from your son, who is the only son, I call him Crown Prince because he's the only person. And he did that. And I tell you also, I have my my brother's son. He is watching. His name is Arman, very talented boy. My brother's daughter Tahsin, also my sister's children, Geti, um, and what's his name, Faizan, and then Shuja. They are very talented. So I am not trying to put a damp in any way. Just only they extol my son. I have the pedigree of my other relatives also, and they are doing really great. So once Shaan read that, and that was a really big discovery for me. And also, he did not know all those incidents. One last thing I would share with you. Sometimes, yeah, definitely, I bore him with some of the stories, and how we have to be frugal and how we have to behave in a resource challenged environment. And one day, Shan told me, "Daddy, you always tell me all those things, stories of poverty and everything. But you know what? You were born to a kind of poor father. My father is rich. So why should I be, clone myself in your past? Let me live as your son, not as your past." Thank you.
So, sir, you have also been very active in public life, as I can see from your book. You have been very active, right? Especially in the United States. And in one of the chapters, you have mentioned you have given certain message to the Muslims living in India. Now, on a very pragmatic note, Muslims in India are not very well in their financial condition or in social condition, right? They have been suffering a lot, right? And I'm not talking about political scenario. I'm not going into this political thing here, but uh, we are here to talk about this the financial condition or the economic or social condition of Muslims living in India, and you have a very very clear and very categorical message to them. What is that? How you think the minority community, particularly Muslims, can uplift their social status, financial status, economic status in the country, which has been very friendly to them, right? And but somehow they have not been able to make up the opportunity that were there available to them. What are the messages that you have for them?
I really like this question, to be honest with you. This is very close to my heart. Uh, if you want to survive, first of all, don't assume your wrong identity. If you are born in India, you are born in India. Don't always think that you are a Dalit or you are a minority or you are born with all the disadvantages or you are a child of a child of a less lesser god. That if once you remove that identity crisis from your mind, you will succeed. The second point I will say that don't look for the best school, don't look for all the amenities. I started in Bihar. I was sitting on a jute mat, बोड़ा पे पढ़ते थे, और बारिश होती थी तो उसमें बूंदें आती थी, है ना। लेकिन अगर हम वही खोजते कि हम भी जाके वहाँ बेस्ट स्कूल में पढ़ेंगे तो नहीं होगा। पहली चीज़, मैं इसको हिंदी में बोलना चाहता हूँ इसलिए कि बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो इस चीज़ को ज़्यादा उनके दिल को टच करेगा। दूसरी बात ये है कि अगर वो हमारे घर में वहाँ पर हिंदी मीडियम ही स्कूल है तो मैं हिंदी मीडियम पढ़ूंगा। भगवान ने कहीं नहीं कहा है कि उसका लैंग्वेज क्या होगा। संस्कृत भगवान का लैंग्वेज नहीं है, अरबी भगवान का लैंग्वेज नहीं है, इंग्लिश भगवान का लैंग्वेज नहीं है। ये हम लोग को बताया गया है, ये बिल्कुल बिल्कुल ही बकवास है। तो हमारे माध्यम जो भी मीडियम वहाँ मौजूद है हमको पढ़ना है। अगर एक अंधा हाथ में ये दिया लेके चल रहा हो तो क्या मैं उसकी रोशनी में आगे ना बढ़ूं, या सिर्फ मैं कहूं कि नहीं वो अंधा है तो उसकी रोशनी से मुझे नहीं फायदा लेना है। नहीं, जो हालात है, जो चीज़ है, हमको एक रोटी मिलती है हम वही खा के रह जाएंगे, पानी मिलता है वही पानी पी करके हम रह जाएंगे। उसके लिए हमको डिस्टिल्ड वाटर, और उसके लिए मुझे इसको नहीं खोजना है, क्या नाम है, डिस्लरी, क्या कहते हैं वहाँ, बिस्लरी, बिस्लरी को नहीं खोजना। ये जो पूरी कहानी है ये इसी की है। मैं यहाँ रहता हूँ, बहुत से लोग हमारे दोस्त हैं, वो कहते हैं अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी में गए और वहाँ पूरा सिचुएशन 20 ईयर्स तक हंगामा था कि AMU और क्या क्या BHU और क्या नाम। मेरे लिए सारी यूनिवर्सिटी बराबर है, मैं कहीं भी जाता तो मैं वैसे ही पढ़ता। हमारे जितने भी टीचर थे वो मेरे लिए श्रद्धेय थे, हमको उनको सर आंखों पे रखना था, वो मेरे उस्ताद थे, चाहे कोई भी होते। ये जब तक मेंटेलिटी लोगों में नहीं होगी, और एक चीज़ और कहें जो समझ में नहीं आता है, और आपको पता चलेगा, माइनॉरिटी कहीं भी होता है, चाहे इंडिया में हो या यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स हो, उनके पास ये बैगेज होता है, और ये बैगेज उनको हमेशा रोक के रखता है। इवन इन यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स इट इज हैपनिंग। दैट्स इट।
सर मैं एक छोटा सा मतलब मैं चाहूंगा एक इस पे एक आपका एक छोटा सा रिस्पांस इस पे भी चाहूंगा। व्हाट डू थिंक व्हाट एल्स द मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी इन इंडिया, मैं ये आपके पर्सपेक्टिव से इसको जानना चाहूंगा बिकॉज दिस इज वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट क्वेश्चन एंड दिस बिकम्स ऑल द मोर सिग्निफिकेंट गिवन द प्रेजेंट सोशियो पॉलिटिकल कंडीशन। अभी बहुत डिबेट चल रहा है इस पे, काफी सारी हम लोग I don't want to go into all those details, but I want to know from you what exactly is the Muslim community?
देखिए, इसमें दो पॉइंट्स हैं, टू पर्सपेक्टिव्स आर देयर। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, मुस्लिम्स आर रियली catching up to the wind. They have started working, they are sending their children, they are competing in civil service exams and all the other exams. But at the same time, which is hurting them is in terms of morale. The government, I must say that, very boldly, they are trying to hurt them, their feelings, their identity, their culture, their past, and there is a wave of demonization in the United States, and you have to accept that. We cannot. And people like you who are in the press, they have to come out and say these things against these things. In the United States, we have selected Kamala Harris. How much we are proud, and Shaan should be proud because he went to the same university, Harvard University, where Kamala Harris got her degree. So he is very proud. At the same time, nobody here talking about a girl or a daughter of an Indian in next generation gets elected and become vice president. Who knows? She will be a president. There has not been any campaign. There has not been people talking about why Pachai and Nadal should lead Microsoft and all kinds of things. But in India, if you open the newspaper, and what happens, I don't want to comment on that. If there is a, like that much type of like poisonous campaign going on, then it hurts. Another most important point, 15 to 20%, whatever the real number is, of the minorities over there, Muslims. If you bruise them, if you try to make them, throw them to the wall, and they become dissident of that country, do you think India will have very good fighting chance to succeed? Or is it the message India would like to give a Vishwa Guru? It is not Vishwa Guru. That message will be Vish Guru. In Hindi, Vish means Zar, poisonous Guru. So we have to think about. But I believe India is a very dynamic society, and I tell you, 70% of Indians and my friends, and I talk to my friends and here, they are not like that. They love everybody. They want to support everybody. And my experience, even today, you see, you are interviewing me. My friend Santosh ji there, Atul Thakur is there, a couple of people who did not show up. Arun Kumar, who he also wrote something. My friend from United States, Ramesh Soparawala. I tell you, there are not people like that. But India will succeed, and government comes and goes, society succeeds, and society is so dynamic that खुशबू को कहीं सरहदों में नहीं बांटते हैं. आप सब लोग सुन रहे हैं कि यहाँ क्या होता है, ये खुशबू जाती है, समझ रहे हैं ना, और वो हर जगह लोगों को प्रेरित करती है कि अच्छा कैसे बने.
Do you have any questions, sir? संतोष
नो नो,
सर?
आई जस्ट, मुझे क्वेश्चन नहीं है, मैं ऐड करना चाहता हूँ व्हाट मैं ये सेगमेंट हिंदी में बोलूंगा
जी.
ताकि लोगों तक पहुंचे. आई विल जस्ट टू ऐड जो मून भाई बता रहे थे अभी. मैं जब अपनी दूसरी किताब लिख रहा था जेपी टू बीजेपी, तो नीतीश कुमार के चैप्टर में आई वांटेड टू कंक्लूड विद द स्टोरी ऑफ होप. तो उस समय के एडिशनल प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी थे, बाद में फिर एडिशनल चीफ सेक्रेटरी, अभी के चीफ सेक्रेटरी आमिर सुबहानी से मिला मैं. तो ऐसे मेरी बातचीत होती रहती. तो मैंने कहा कि आई एम जस्ट लुकिंग फॉर ए स्टोरी ऑफ ए होप. तो ही जस्ट कैजुअली मेंशन्ड कि एक हज भवन में हम लोग कोचिंग चला रहे हैं, आप उसको देख सकते हैं, विदाउट पुटिंग प्रेशर मॉम, इट्स अ ग्रेट स्टोरी, कहा आप देख लीजिए. मैं वहां गया. तो जनरली हज भवन का इस्तेमाल क्या होता है कि जब ट्रेवल करते हैं तो उस समय उनको फैसिलिटी देने के लिए गवर्नमेंट करती है, तो मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इट रिमेन्स एम्प्टी. तो गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया कि पूरा मुस्लिम गर्ल्स बॉयज ड्रोन फ्रॉम डिस्ट्रिक्ट लाइक किशनगंज, अररिया, जहां उनको पढ़ने की कोई सुविधा नहीं है, और नेम एनी कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स आप ले लीजिए, बैंकिंग का है और एसएससी का एग्जाम है, पुलिस कांस्टेबल का है, दरोगा का एग्जाम है, वो सारे एग्जाम्स की तैयारी वहां कर रहे हैं, और गुड नंबर ऑफ गर्ल्स. और उसमें से बहुत सारी, ये चौथा पांचवा बैच हम, मुझको, मैं इतने साल से बिहार कवर कर रहा हूं, मुझे पता नहीं था इतने स्किल पर हो रहा है. अब वो इस एक्सपेरिमेंट को रेप्लिकेट 5-7 जिले में किया गया है. तो मैंने कहा कि आमिर सुबहानी साहब कि मैं कुछ लड़कियों से लड़कों से बात करना चाहता हूं. तो उसमें जो कुछ एसआई बन गए थे, कुछ एक्साइज इंस्पेक्टर सब बन रहे थे, वो लोग आए. दे टोल्ड मी द स्टोरी कि सर मैं जब गांव जाती हूं तो कैसे पीपुल विल फ्लॉक अराउंड अस, हमारे पास आते हैं, हमसे पूछते हैं, और जो कल तक हमको चाह रहे थे कि तुम हिजाब में रहो, और वो किस तरह से सर आंखों पे उठा के लेते हैं. सो दिस इज द स्टोरी ऑफ होप. तो उन पेरेंट्स को सैल्यूट जिन्होंने ये डिसाइड किया कि नो, अब हम उस साइकिल्स को तोड़ना है, बच्चों को भेजेंगे, और वो भेजा, और दे वेंट बैक विद सक्सेस स्टोरी. और किस तरह से, तो इसी तरह से सोसाइटल चेंज. नीतीश कुमार एक बात क्या बोलते हैं जी, हम लोग एज ए जर्नलिस्ट क्रिटिसाइज करते हैं, ऑन द अदर साइड ऑफ द टेबल करते रहेंगे, लेकिन एक अच्छी बात उन्होंने कही कि मुझको बिहार की एक पिक्चर बनानी होगी तो मैं साइकिल चलाती हुई लड़की बनाऊंगा. ये चीजें नहीं होती थी. जब लड़कियां साइकिल चलाती थी तो हम लोग पत्ती कसते थे, अरे क्या साइकिल चला रहे हो, हम लोग मतलब हमारा सोसाइटी. और अभी आप देखिए, दैट बिकम्स अ कॉमन साइट. दैट्स वन, दैट वाज द कवर ऑफ, मैंने हाफ कवर ऑफ माय फर्स्ट बुक. मैंने वो चुना था कि रूल और मिसरूल में, तो व्हाट इज द रूल्ड पार्ट. सो दैट स्टोरी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. तो ये सारी जर्नी में आप, ये जो इनका जो मैसेज टेक अवे क्या है, मैं बराबर बोलता हूं कि टेक अवे है रेजिलियंस. उस कंक्रीट में वो दरार खोजने की बात है, उस दरार में मिट्टी है कि नहीं. आप एक चीज हमेशा याद रखिए, गॉड ने थॉर्न्स भी बनाए हैं और रोज ही बनाए हैं, एंड बट जो थॉर्न्स है, always placed below the petals of rose. So
If I
that's why you see that petals rising above. That petal can be Abhijit, that cotton petal can is Moon Khan, can be Shaan, can be us, can be anybody. वो thorn हमेशा रहेगा, तो वो आपको you have to keep out the thorn part.
if I may, as we finish up and as I pass it to Abhijit ji, if I may, I wanted to just read a brief passage from the book, and I think it encapsulates the discussion we're having. Firstly, I think naturally some of the nuances are beyond my scope, but I will say that it's the responsibility of each generation to reevaluate its society's strengths and weaknesses from a fresh perspective. And I do think that India is on the precipice of that. And I think that India is on the precipice of redefining itself and reevaluating its values in a positive way. And like you mentioned, Santoshji, I think there's a lot of positive change on the way to be optimistic about. I did want to read just a passage of of the book here, and this is actually a final passage that my father wrote, very briefly, tellingly, gallingly, highlighting the chilling tale of buried transgressions in a relentless, unpredictable manner, was not meant to criticize my Janambhumi and Karambhumi. However, it is true that Bharat did not prove to be an Inam Bhumi for me and for millions of migratory Indians who are fleeing India. However, my intention of writing this memoir has been to renew people's hope, refresh their confidence, and teach my readers a way to expand their belief in themselves. We are all the same in the dark, and in all ages, and in all continents, unless somebody lights the light and not the fire. Now I classify many immortal failures as training by fire. A rainbow comes only after torrential rain. I needed those storms to build my character. Is it not karma? A good karma, the force generated by a person's actions to perpetuate transmigration and in its ethical consequences to determine the nature of the person's next existence. With this memoir, I'm trying to compose a redemptive ballad for India that I want to sing on the mountain. This is where my roots are. I have nourished them with tears of nostalgia. हमने सोचा था कि दिल जला डालें हमने सोचा था कि दिल जला डालें फिर ख्याल आया कि दिल में तू भी है अभिजीत जी
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात है, क्या बात
Very good. Wonderful.
है. Wonderful,
Wonderful.
very well,
Wonderful.
very beautifully summed up. We don't
Exactly.
need to add anything.
Sir, Moon sir, your final statement, sir. Anything you want to add?
I will say it looks like my journey has not completed. I am as fresh I was 40 years ago. A lot of new frontiers need to be conquered. And my main goal is to inspire people who feel tired, sluggish, hopeless. That's my main expectation of my life. And I want to leave a legacy where people can see that how I try to educate and raise a crown prince of my family.
Excellent.
I hope and we believe that you will do lots of things in the years to come. And we wish you all the health. And my friends who are watching this show, this live discussion of Ganga to Mississippi, guys, do give it a read. It's a wonderful book, very inspirational, and this book will give you lots and lots of things to cheer about, lots of things to treasure for, right? So this book is available on Amazon, and I hope this is also there on Flipkart, right? So go and buy the copy of the book. This is amazing book, and you must read this one. So thank you so much. And with this, we will wrap up this discussion. Thank you so much, Shaan. Thank you so much, Moon sir. Thank you so much, Santosh sir. It's been really a wonderful discussion where we discussed about lots of things, different aspects of the person, his journey, and this book, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
you. Thank you.